sure everybody has ridden the Muni, and probably if you're running late, your worst fear is when a wheelchair gets on the bus. It takes 20 minutes. And the actual wheelchair, the person in the wheelchair you feel sorry for, of course, but it's the fact that it takes 20 minutes to get them lifted onto the bus, and then you see them crush a few toes, and then they've got to kind of back up the Hummer and, like, you know, roll it around. And I'm just, every time I'm on the bus, I'm always thinking, like, oh my God, somebody's got to do something about this, because the wheelchairs take up so much room. If you think about just kind of the evolution of the design, it's basically just a chair on wheels, and it's slowly progressed into a fast chair on wheels, motorized, a joystick. You've got a couple of them help elevate you out of the chair, but essentially I think the most progressive design I've seen is the ones that collapse, kind of like with strollers, so they kind of break apart and are easily assembled. But the basic functions still are somewhat, I guess, I don't want to say archaic, but if you think about being in a wheelchair, you're basically relying on your arms. And when you're trying to accelerate, it's essentially all your arms. Of course, if you have an electric, you can use the joystick, but then you have to rely on the battery not running out. So anyway, I've been sort of, I guess, kicking around an idea that what if we redesigned the wheelchair? And I don't necessarily want to reinvent the wheel, but I definitely think that we need to move away from the two wheels. I've kind of done some research on my own, and the information is actually really interesting. There are a lot of companies that are trying to kind of, I guess, make the design more lightweight, more compact, more mobile in terms of getting it into a car, onto a bus. But widespread, it's still this leather chair with metal bars and rubber wheels. So I was at a concert and I saw this woman. She was a singer, and she had been shot in the back and she was paralyzed. And I'm just watching her try to heave her way up onto the stage, and somebody had to run up and push her back. And I'm thinking, what if she had a child? What if she was trying to, I don't know, reach for something? She'd have to stop the chair and grab it. She'd have to if she wanted to hold the child, she'd have to rely on somebody else. So essentially, my idea is threefold. The first is basically empowering the disabled, the ones that can't use their legs specifically, and that giving them 360-degree mobility when they're in their chair. Second is making it more ergonomical, because if you see a lot of them, they've got a lot of shoulder rotation issues, back issues, because they're constantly hunched forward. And then the third is I've been looking at the technology of Segway and how essentially it utilizes your own center of gravity to accelerate yourself forward. And the man has 200 patents on the thing, so it's all listed publicly. And the design is actually really interesting, because essentially if you, the disabled, still can utilize your torso, if you can somehow accelerate your own body in the chair by pushing yourself forward without using your arms, imagine how much more empowered you would feel. And then essentially, if you have 360-degree mobility, it's I guess just giving you more options. So I guess obviously it's scattered, but I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of get all the information, pull the information together, and kind of figure out what's already out there. I know Segway has tried to create a wheelchair, but it's still stuck on these two wheels that I'm just imagining it getting on the bus and thinking it's still going to take 20 minutes. So for somebody to be able to, yes, obviously they'll need the lift, but if they can just get in and just throw up the chair and they're just there, they don't need to readjust and do a parallel park, I think is the goal.
The Dyson balls are...
I was thinking the same thing.
What?
So the Dyson vacuum cleaner, have you seen it?
Is it the one that...
Yeah, they have a model where it's basically just the ball.
Yeah.
So the ball, the whole vacuum pivots on the ball, so you can turn around basically in place.
Yeah,
So if you could do that, you could pull. So right now, the problem with wheels is the wheels are on the outside,
right.
so you take up the whole space just to get a base that you can support the weight on.
Right.
If you could put the base in the middle, then you wouldn't need as much space to get through. And if you could just shove the wheel and the ball down the center. And if you could do something like what the Segway uses, like with gyroscoping, whatever to stabilize it, then you could go down basically just rolling on the ball.
And actually I've thought about that, but the only thing is, again, I'm not really a design person, so I'm thinking, well, if you're sitting on a ball, safety is number one. So how, the design of like protecting yourself. Are you sitting in a wheel? I mean, I guess that's my only. But yeah, I mean, that definitely is key.
The vacuum has like the front part and the back part that you hold, so it'd sort of be like the front and the back of a wheel. So you wouldn't, I think, be on the ball alone.
Right.
But you could have some sort of contraption there where the ball maintains that 360-degree capability.
Right.
But you could probably implement on those, like the structure outside the ball, some sort of safety or brake mechanism.
Right. But still, again, making sure that your circumference doesn't take up more than your arm space, right?
I think the challenge is kind of twofold. I mean, one, you've got a technical challenge, which is, okay, how do you come up with a better wheelchair? But if you look at a lot of the medical supplies that are out there, crutches or plastic casts and so forth, a lot of them are pretty old technology. They're not very good. Yeah. And I think part of the reason why they exist is because, or why they haven't changed, is because the medical supply industry isn't really configured to adopt change very quickly, and there probably aren't incentives in the right place. I mean, I just bought a pair of crutches recently for my hospital.
Yeah.
It's $800 for the crutches my insurance paid. I didn't worry about that. I paid $50.
Yeah.
But
it was $800 for crutches.
For a pair
Are you serious?
Walgreens has them.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like can you go chop down a tree and make them yourself? I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, I know, it's staggering.
Come on.
It's staggering. But the thing is, it's funny because I actually spoke with some of the industrial design firms specifically about the crutches. I happen to know people in that community, and he said, it's funny. One of the senior people, I think it was actually at IDEO, had broken a leg or something and showed up with this pair of very high-tech crutches, which of course you never see.
Yeah.
Probably never cost more than $800, right? But I think the thing is, you would find the industrial design firms could probably do a lot of good in this area, so it would be worth bringing something like this to them. But then the question becomes, okay, well, what would you bring to make this change happen? Because obviously they can dream up a nifty wheelchair, but why isn't it already in the market? Why is it happening slowly? Why is it this need is unmet? And I think actually where you could add a lot of value is identifying the impediments to change, the things that are slowing change down in the medical supply industry, right? And finding out what the end price is to the insurance company so you can set a benchmark. We have got to come up with something better for $800 than the crutch. Right. Or in this case, the $5,000 for the steel wheelchair.
Yeah.
But if you come to them and say, I've got the kind of the admin piece solved. It's more than admin. The business case challenge solved. Right. A lot of these industrial design firms will take projects on spec and actually take them on as a venture investment of their own. And I know a number of them are doing this. I mean, some of them just design shops will do it, but they're like Fuse projects will do something like this. But then there are other ones for more business oriented.
There's a whole category of stuff too that's in need of a rethink. Where it's just it's functional, but it's not cool. I mean, when was the last time somebody said a wheelchair was cool? I mean, it doesn't happen. It's sort of something that you got by accident. You didn't mean to be in a wheelchair, and now you're stuck with this thing. But there's no reason you have to make it suck. I mean, it could be better than it is. But I mean, make it crazy colors, or I don't know, make it all graffitied out, or it could be cool. Yeah, you can make it crazy. I don't know, make it look awesome.
They had a guy. So I mean, if you lost a leg a couple of years ago, you just get a wooden leg or a plastic leg or whatever. And now they've got those sort of springy things.
Yeah.
And they've actually disqualified people from sporting.
That was the guy in the Olympics. I remember that story.
Bodied people because they actually run faster now.
Yeah. The guy couldn't even partake in the Olympics or the Special Olympics because he was too fast.
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, but
They need to adapt the boots.
on maybe we're actually working away from wheelchairs completely because now Lockheed Martin, Honda are making these exoskeletons where people, you know, where they're being designed for the military, so you know, combat troops can carry thousands of pounds into combat, but there's there's obviously an application for people who are paraplegic.
Sure.
There's a company called Berkeley Bionics.
Yeah, of course.
That just launched e-legs, which is an exoskeleton specifically for this need to erase the idea of having a wheelchair and instead allow people that can't walk to walk. So they can actually, and there's videos online.
That works. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we got to cut it off there, but because we're out of time. But if you want to follow up on this, which it sounds like we do, the video will be online.